Welcome again, everyone, to our joint webinar with Cohesity. My name is Miguel from InspireTech, and I'll be your moderator today. A shout out to Transcend Solutions for supporting us and bringing our Mindshare session to a wider audience. Our joint webinar will be sharing about on how we can reimagine the next-gen unstructured data management to achieve secure and highly available project shares and user directories. So before we start the webinar, I would like to highlight to our audiences that if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A function found at the bottom of the Zoom panel. So right now, I would like to introduce our speakers for today's sharing. We have Satish Murthy, Director of System Engineering for Cohesity ASEAN and India region. He brings in a wealth of experience in the data management industry. Prior to this role, he was responsible to build a successful tech team at HPE. He brings customer experiences in APAC product management and marketing, systems engineering and solution architect, while at companies like EMC and NetApp. Satish current focus is to actually help customers transform by harnessing the power of data. As for our second speaker, Teck Wei, he is the product manager of InspireTech. He has 10 years of experience as an IT professional, handling over projects of various sizes and complexities from MNCs to SMEs. His business and technology trained background uniquely positions him to leverage knowledge from both domains to deliver additional value for customers. So before I pass the stage to our first speaker, Satish, I would actually like to do a short poll with everyone here to know what is your customers' most pressing challenges today in managing project shares and user directories. So I will now launch the poll for everybody. So I'll give you guys like around 30 seconds to, to put in your answers, and after which, I will proceed on to the webinar itself. Right, thanks. A lot of people is like really answering, trying their best to put in the right questions, or put in the right answers. Sorry about that. Yep. All right. I'll give you guys just like 2 more seconds, just put in your answers, and yep, I will now end the poll. And yeah, let me share the results with everybody. So as you can see, I would say that most of everybody have kind of like all the above kind of problems they are facing right now. So thanks for everybody feedback. And now I would like to actually pass on to the stage over to Satish. And yeah, Satish.
Yeah, thanks, Miguel. I hope you can still hear me. Let me share my screen once you're done.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, can you confirm you can see my screen as well, Miguel?
Yep, I can see that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So good afternoon to everyone, and good day if you're outside the ASEAN region. Right, I'm Satish Murthy here, and I'll walk you through the Cohesity Smart Files. Right, you earlier heard from Miguel that this is a very, very important session to understand how do you reimagine the next generation unstructured data management. Right, so data is pretty much everywhere, right? Everything that we touch, everything that we do today, you carry your mobile phone, for example, trace together in Singapore, you walk around, every single thing is collected, right? So that means a data has been created, it is shared, it is being analyzed, it is being doing some things, whether you go to Google, whether you do anything, right? Today, data is about everything that we do, and that means they are all stored as files, and it has to be managed better, right? Understanding that this is your digital renewable energy source, right? We all know data is the new oil, right? That is a phrase that we all hear, right? It exists in abundance. It can be used to recreate value, right? So where else, right? Applications, right? You have IoT, you have sensors everywhere that generates and pulls the data into a common repository. You have traditional storage solutions that are out there, which are very, very complex. What technology you had 20 years ago may not help you to scale your business to the next level. And one of the biggest ever evolving threat is the cyber threat, right? Be it ransomware, be it the modern attack that is happening called the cyber attacks. These are some serious challenges that is posing the industry, right? So given those are the major challenges, we want to know how we could move and progress towards a modern solution where you can harness, secure, and protect your data, and making sure that you can get some valuable information out of that. Just a very simple example. You have truckload of information of, say, social security number or NRIC numbers. You have truckload of information of the passport numbers. How do you know if you can sieve through it? How do you know if you can get some valuable information out there, right? So these are some of the key aspects moving forward that would propel your business. Now, if you look at staggering rates of this data growth, they are all happening, and we get everyday customers asking us, help me to manage the data and monetize it. Having data is nobody's challenge. I mean, it's not a big deal, but how can I monetize it, right? You can think about machine data, file data, user data, project shares, right? Video surveillance. So you have massive amount of smart cities writing into a repository, or backup data, tiered data where you have multiple tiering, healthcare where you have the PACS and other applications writing into a repository, audio files where every company records their phone calls, right? Where, hello, welcome to this bank, and you're under recording so that we could analyze to make our progress better, right? In terms of response better. So every single thing has a significant implications to move forward. Video footages, analytical data, cloud application data, and you can even take it to the court because these are digital data and you got to store somewhere. Now, the expectation is that data value over time would increase, right? So because it's like gold, you keep more and more historical data, your value of that business would increase. But what is happening is the reality. There are tremendous challenges that is going on, right? Customers are seeing 40% over incremental growth rate every year, right? Increase in mobile workloads. So incredible number of workloads that is happening where people are clicking on their mobile, and IoT devices are generating massive amount of data, right? And what do you do with this? You have incredible amount of data. Think about your bank, think about your financial institution or a healthcare institution, or even your own business in whatever industry you work for. There's incredible amount of data that you generate. And who's responsible? They don't get to analyze this particular data set because the reality there is a return of investment gap, right? That gap is always visible. We call it as an ROI gap. The reality is somewhere here. So you're not able to cope up with that data set. So the easiest solution may not be ideal. Going to cloud is much more challenging than how easy it is to go to the cloud. It is not a click that tomorrow you can move everything to the cloud. The ideal scenario is hybrid, where you can combine both of them. You have better visibility. Is your data protected? Is not your core data? What if the cloud vendors declare bankruptcy tomorrow, right? While the cloud as a buzzword is so cool, but if they declare bankruptcy, are you ready? Are you ready to pull back all your data back to your own data center? How easy and agile is your data center? Whether it is cloud or virtual, doesn't matter. How can you scale your existing business solution, right? Can you meet your backup windows? Can you understand where is the compliance challenges? So once we know, then you can take some clear decisions, because tiering is one of the many solutions, and most traditional solutions still have massive challenges. So that's where it leads to a lot of compromises. If I could bring this up, right? They are insecure. 50% of them are insecure about the data loss. 90% of the data is infrequently accessed data. 91% has no centralized data management. And there's significant increase in attacks or cyber attacks. You can just put ransomware and hit the news on Google. You will see massive amount of information, starting from Toyota plant all the way to healthcare. Every single customer is getting impacted. So given that, how do you profit from data value? You need something modern. You need a new tool that will take the data and understand how to tier them, how to store them, and provide you more analytics. You need something that can streamline your data applications, right? Your applications writing into a repository. You need a new technology or a new storage that can redefine insight, where search is built in, right? You go to WhatsApp search, you can search for things today, right? Which was not there 15, 20 years ago, right? You could simplify, you have a better control of what you want to search. You can scale seamlessly. You're future proof and on your teams where you have, whether you have a customer managed or partner managed. So you can know how to profit from this particular data set. And Cohesity is at the forefront of providing these technologies to you. So if you look at what Cohesity is doing, as a company, we are here to radically simplify enterprise data management, right? Treat Cohesity like a data lake, right? We are an enterprise data management platform. And one of the key things that we do is to unlock limitless value from the enterprise data, not only just storing the data, but getting some value out of that, right? So Cohesity is driven by our multi-cloud platform called Helios, be it anywhere, be it on premises or in a virtual data center or on the cloud. You really don't know about the physical location. You can access any data set anywhere and have the ability to manage them. The first thing that Cohesity tries to solve is looking at backup. Backup infrastructure as a whole is a massive challenge because you have backup software, media, master, proxy, you name it, so many devices. And guess what? 15 years ago, you had similar devices. You remember the old phone that you carry, whose battery never dies today? You had those pages, you had PDA, you had camera, you had laptop and all of that. What happened today? You replaced it with your smartphone, right? Whether you call it as Android or iOS, doesn't matter. Similarly, Cohesity is collapsing all of these tiers into one single platform, right? Providing a better data protection mechanism to you. Furthermore, we help customers to consolidate file and objects, disaster recovery, DR, and analytics on the same platform and provide analytics across, be it on premises or on the cloud, provide you the same functionality and a simple manageability on the top where you can manage everything from a single pane of glass. So that is Cohesity Helios to you. So let's look at benefit of this platform, right? Irrespective of where you are, whether it is remote offices, data centers, or public cloud, Cohesity is a simple to manage architecture, right? It is a hyperscale design. You just roll out any compute which is certified, be it on the cloud or virtual or physical, you get the same look and feel. You have unified services, right? Any service that I mentioned, whether it is data protection, file and objects, which is the crux of today, which I'll cover in shortly, and a lot of other things that we cover. And of course, delivered your way, right? Be it subscription or SaaS. Once you get the idea of Cohesity, what do we do on the smart files? So smart files is a new approach to files and objects. We understand there is a deluge of files, right? Every particular customers look at how do I store files? So you need a software-defined architecture where you're not restricted to a particular hardware. Because if you are restricted to a particular hardware, they define your price, right? So Cohesity allows you to scale without limits. Optimized for efficiency, where you have capacity and data management built in. Your multi-protocol stack, whether it is NFS, SMB, whether you access from Windows or Linux or other applications like S3, you all get together as one common repository. Ease of operation, right? Easy to search, right? You can search for NRICs, for example, within the repository. And integrated apps. Who did what, when, how? How do you know if a user called X deleted 10 files yesterday? So you need a modern approach where Cohesity is a file system that encompasses antivirus, compliance tools, analytics, and data management, all built in the same software, and gives you all the protocols that you really needed. Very, very similar to the Android or the iOS ecosystem, because you don't need so many devices anymore. And this smart files oozes new modern technology, right? Multi-cloud simplicity. It's an enterprise class. You can deploy anywhere. You have limitless scale, so you can scale your data set anywhere. And your global space efficiency with dedupe and compression, where you reduce the footprint, your multi-protocol access. You have a global dashboard where you have control plane, better visibility of the data. You know what to do with the data, whether you want to tier it, you want to go to a higher tier or a lower tier, or even burst to the cloud based on your requirements of your data center. And you also have AI-powered cybersecurity, right? Any presentation doesn't get complete today without talking about how do we protect your data from cybersecurity. Ransomware protection, because ransomware, you would agree, is growing along with the cryptocurrency. If you plot a curve, it'll match against each other, right? So you need a clear way of protecting your data, making sure the data is immutable. Nobody can copy your data, nobody can delete your data or tamper with. You need worm capability, write once, read many. You need legal hold that is required. You have a risk exposure to be minimized with a single platform, data classification, and user behavior tracking. All of these are built inside Cohesity. Now derive value from diverse content. So if you look at Cohesity, be it content management, corporate audio, video surveillance, or machine learning or digital archives, all of them generate massive amount of data. And we, along with EasiShare, which is from InspireTech, are one single repository that can solve a lot of challenges in your environment, right? It is a new architecture that can be able to store and connect to majority of your business applications and digital archives. If you're a financial institution, digital checks, right? If you're in the voice recording field, you can store these files. If you're on a different industry, whether it is a medical industry where you can scan an image and store it, right? Or audio recording, video recording, machine learning, scratch spaces, all of these are very, very important. And that is where Cohesity provides, along with InspireTech, a solution across law firms, right? Legal statehood and documents and things like that. Legal hold, which is important for compliance. Do I follow GDPR? Do I follow SEC 17A4? All of these are important that comes along with Cohesity or DSS, right? Certification, state and educational field, life sciences or medical research, financial resources or services that needs to store files and share files and collaborate, or tax archive where you need to store these files for a long period of time. Every one of them can leverage Cohesity smart files with InspireTech. And guess what? It is a single architecture of management across multi-cloud, be it on-premises, be it remote offices or public cloud. Cohesity provides a single pane of glass where you can manage all of these different assets from one pane of glass. How cool it would be. You can see how much of quota you have applied in Malaysia. You can see you could increase your folder quotas in Singapore. You can take a backup in a different location in Bangkok. So these are all whole new advantages. And for example, if you're from Indonesia, you're moving to a newer capital. How about transferring this data over to a newer capital? Every single one of them has a whole new advantage when you manage from a single console. So Cohesity's architecture is a software-defined architecture. That means you have cost optimized or cost efficient, if you may call it. So we are not tied to any particular hardware, future-proof, optimized in terms of performance, capacity, and flash for performance, and absolutely flexible, right? We see customers reduce 50% or more lower total cost as they move along with Cohesity. Now, when you're not tied to a hardware, what does it happen to your enterprise? You know, every 3 years, hardware changes are imminent, right? Be it any industry you belong to. Sometimes some customers stretch it to 5 years and so on. But every 3 years, without compromise, you would always want to scale out. You want to scale. You want to change your hardware. If you're Gen 5, you have a Gen 6. If you're Gen 9, you have a Gen 10. Hardware is subjected to change. How about Moore's Law? Moore's Law states that every year, CPU will double its speed. So you need better hardware. How about Cohesity? You're stuck with a particular hardware, not to worry. Over the next 1-2 years, you can change it, upgrade it, expand it. So you're not tied to any hardware like Liquid. You can just move your data set. And that means this is done non-disruptively, independent of itself, of any hardware platform, and you can scale and manage them with no forklift upgrade. So you can move from one hardware to one hardware. You can move on the cloud from one node to another node on EC2 or other VHDs or anything that you like, whether it is Amazon, Azure, or Google. All of them provides you a brilliant architecture to move forward in this world of file storage. So multi-cloud benefits. Cohesity addresses where you can scale your data anywhere. You can access them anywhere. You have a disaster recovery scenario on premises. You can lift and shift your data to the cloud, or you can fail over to the cloud today. And you also have workload migration as required. You can also burst onto the cloud to say that if these data sets are no more used, if they are cold, you can move it to the coldest tier on the cloud, be it, say, for example, a near line or a cold line or a hot, cold blob, or say Glacier, whichever vendor you choose on the cloud. Cohesity supports all of them. Now, from the lifecycle management, you can define lifecycle policies for your files. You can say, based on SLA, the hot data stays on SSDs, that will give you the best performance, and the cold data will go onto the disk, and further, based on the type of the data, age of the data, that can move to the cloud of your choice. Now, Cohesity also comes with great amount of efficiency technologies, right? For a given data that you store on files, we have inline dedupe, inline compression that gives you a lot of savings. You have small file optimization for performance, and unlimited clonings for test and dev, and whatever optimization of your development that you would like to do. So you can create multiple copies of the same data set for analytics and data mining that you make. Now, cyber threat resiliency. I spoke earlier as well. This is one of the biggest topic that you would want to know more in detail. Cohesity, being a single platform, reduces your attack surface. You know, you have a house with 1,000 doors. You have to protect all the 1,000 of them. If a house with one door, you just make sure that you make that bulletproof and protect that. Simple architecture, your one single surface for all your high latency applications like file services, object services, and everything that you would do of your secondary data, which is what Cohesity's focus is, you reduce your attack surface. Cohesity helps you to protect your data set with worm, data lock, and protecting your data. We can provide you isolated data services that include air gap, right? So you can make sure that your network is on and off only during the replication window. And this data is also encrypted. And you have rapid recovery from your second site. So given that, this would help you in terms of file services going beyond that. You know, file services data, as you would agree, we are all on a data growth, right? We call it as data deluge or avalanche. With massive amount of data, how do you do analytics? Just think about it. Copying a 1 terabyte data from a hard disk to a flash disk would take a nightmare of a time. 4 to 6 hours is normal. How do you copy 1 petabyte of data to do analytics? How do you sieve through that for a credit card number? How do you sieve through a 1 petabyte of data, or 2 petabyte or 5 petabyte for NRICs? How do you do that today? You have a social security number inside. You want to scan that. Good luck. You type in today, it'll come back with an answer in 3 days. That's not the technology you want today in 2022. You want to move forward. You want to provide analytics just like that. So Cohesity is a next generation technology. How about this? We bring the applications into the data platform, very similar that Android or iOS did. So when you pick your phone, you can double click a WhatsApp, you can double click your YouTube, you can double click many apps that can analyze and edit your photos. How about that? Cohesity is a data platform. You can bring these apps right into the platform, double click on this, you can analyze your data, you can do pattern searching, you can do antivirus scanning, you can do visibility of your data. All of these are natively built in. That gives a little bit more brilliant edge to your business to the next level. So you can consolidate file and objects with broad interoperability with multi-protocol access, SMB for Windows, NFS for Unix, S3 for modern applications, along with Swift. All of these in a single platform with all the technologies that you need right built inside, be it security, compression, deduplication, search, multi-tenancy, ransomware protection, right? Data protection, DR, retention, all these natively built in. You have a technology from Cohesity along with InspireTech to bring this to you. Now, a single solution from Cohesity Smart Files to maximize your data value. We help you to reduce TCO and increase your profitability, right? We help you with efficiency to improve your data set in terms of realizing the true data potential, right? We help you to reduce the risk and cutting down and minimize the cyber attacks, right? And also secure with air gap and compliance. and finally drive intelligence and insight to your data. With that, I thank you very much to listening to me on Cohesity. I'll pass it to my co-speaker, which is TechWay, who is going to talk about how InspireTech plugs into the Cohesity's file system and gives you the great brilliance of file sharing. With that, I thank you, and over to you, TechWay.
Thanks, Satish. Yep, let me share my screen over there. Miguel, can you just help me do a quick check? Is the screen all right and the sound?
Yep, everything sounds good and looks good.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to all our audience. So like very happy to be doing this with Cohesity again. Thanks to Satish for definitely sharing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the idea of the data growth challenges, scalability and security and all the other sharings. From my end, right, I think what we do at InspireTech here on EasiShare, right, we are now really focusing on simplified and stronger security for your files. So as part of the webinar topic, we'll also choose two areas of use cases, user directories and project shares. If you don't remember, earlier on, Satish had this slide about 16 boxes. So these two were actually the two boxes that was inside as part of the use case, and I'll be elaborating a little bit more. So a small animation over here of how this works is that imagine Cohesity as that platform that I think Satish has already explained very well what the platform does and what the platform offers. And as EasiShare, we are always anchored as more towards the end user application. So it's that one little magical application that Satish said, something like Satish said, a bit like our Android and iOS phone. After you have a very strong platform, users might need some particular apps for specific use cases, and that's where EasiShare really comes in. And in line with Cohesity's vision, especially on things like scalability and security, this is where we find our partnership very strong, because I think some of you who have been following EasyShare for a couple of years, you know that we are an enterprise file security solution, which is a single platform that we manage, share, and govern. So now you might be wondering, like, isn't this sounds like what Satish has said that Cohesity has to offer? So like, what is there that InspireTech here with EasyShare has to offer as well? So this might be some of the questions that you might have, that don't a NAS like smart files has already some means to manage the file, as what Satish has explored, right? And then after that, NAS has some file sharing and collaboration. So I was also noticing earlier on what Satish was explaining, he used the word share and collaborate very heavily. Then there will also be capabilities in NAS to actually govern the files. So earlier on, I think Satish also mentioned that what Cohesity offering as a smart files is also what we term as like a modernization of a traditional legacy NAS, which comes to the question of like, if there is a very good file repository already, then what is more that InspireTech is actually offering here with EasyShare? And if that the platform already has some security features built in, then what exactly more does InspireTech add on to this solution? And finally, if there is already some support in terms of governance, then what is more? So if you notice, for my section, it's going to be pretty short and really focusing on these three pillars to give a sense of what exactly we are doing that is value adding on top of a very powerful platform that was shared by Satish that Cohesity offers. Now, so broadly speaking, for EasyShare, we are really looking at modernizing the file experience. So for today's case, we'll look particularly into like project shares and user directories, which I'll share a little bit more later. So the three key pillars that we look in is that there is this part in terms of the user interface. So what we offer is a simplified and intuitive user interface. Then in terms of the secure file share request and collaboration bit, we have some value add in terms of the experience. And finally, in terms of a more comprehensive file activity level kind of tracking, that's there as well. So just really imagine like the first picture that I showed, right? Cohesity is a very powerful platform that Satish has shared what are the values that is offered. And what we do is that little app that we sit on top of this powerful platform to give more values to some of the use cases that you might be facing or your customers might be facing. So jumping into the first one is that we title it really elevating the digital adoption. So as part of digital adoption, one of the challenge that we always hear is that users always expect better user experience nowadays. So unlike in maybe about 10, 20 years ago, people just expect IT to work. But in today's world, users are no longer just expecting things to work. They expect it to have a good experience, and they have higher expectations on that as well. So how do I see this is that in the past, especially in the project share and the user directory area, so user directory means your personal space that your corporate IT might have given to you to put your files. That was how it was done, and mostly it's through a network drive file explorer experience. But increasingly, over on the consumer side, we know that Dropbox, OneDrive is a very popular tool that is on the public cloud, and they are very popular as a consumer tool as stuff. So some enterprise users might want that experience, but the enterprise itself might not want to have certain files onto the public cloud. So the question now begs is that how do we marry these two? And in our design of EasiShare, what we try to achieve is that in the experience to take the best elements of both of these two worlds, one from the traditional network drives kind of file explorer experience, the other from a more modern kind of like Google Drive or Dropbox kind of experience. And we try to balance it and pick the best of both elements to combine it into our product EasiShare. So giving experience across both desktop, mobile tablet, and web version. So it's really giving that kind of file experience that is modern, but yet supported by a strong NAS platform and a strong file system that is running on a Cohesity platform, Cohesity Smart Files platform. So this is really the first value add that we add on top of the Smart Files platform. In the second concept, so I have three, right? So this is the second one. Employees are our first line of defense. So what do I mean is that many a times we rely on employees' behaviors to protect files. So in here, right, if we recall how we normally share files and collaborate together, our very conventional convenience is file servers. So the traditional kind of just a simple file server. It could even be for smaller enterprises. It could even be things like Synology or QNAP kind of NAS. And then, or you have your email or removable media like hard disk, thumb drive, or it could be some public cloud offerings that your user starts to use. So with the use of these tools, generally it increases some security risks that a lot of enterprises are concerned about. And what we now do is that with EasiShare implemented into your organization, we have things like a secure link that's generated. And then we also have things like 2FA and policy controls, so view-only mode. So these are the key features that help user to collaborate better. What it enables is that through this exchange process, now you have this layer of software EasiShare that is actually tracking it and controlling some of the flows of it and giving more visibility, which I will expand a little bit more later. And what we aspire to do is that for files sharing and exchanging, generally, even for InspireTech ourselves, we avoid doing attachments, especially if it's sensitive files. And definitely for our company, we actually don't even use external hard disk drive and thumb drives, which sometimes can be easily lost and creates a security issue. And the third pillar that I will go into is that the idea of preventing potential data breaches. So other than prevention, we also talk about detection. Now today, earlier on, I was also mentioning we have more visibility on the file exchanges, and what can we do out of that is that in our EasiShare solution, what we are very strong in is in terms of the tracking of the specific activities into the audit logs. And what this means is that with a very good tracking system, this sort of data, again, so this is also another data, can be used to help you to detect if there's any malicious actors in your system. And other than that, right, on the space of going to a bigger space of governance, there are things like versioning control and remote wipe, whereby the experience EasiShare will be stronger. And with that, actually, that are my three key points that I want to share today. So today will be a little bit shorter. And before I end my section, I would just like to also thank Transcend. So the reason is because Cohesity and EasiShare ourselves, we are products, and we always need to have our valued partners like Transcend to reach out closer to the customers. So very happy to also be working with them today to be closer to customers as well. And with that, I'll pass it back to Miguel. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Tegway. So let me just quickly change my screen. And then, yep, I hope everybody can see my screen right now. So we are going to enter into the Q&A session. But before that, I would like to thank Satish and Tegway for sharing your insights. And I hope everyone have managed to take away something valuable. And, if you didn't get a chance to actually ask any questions, or you can take your time now to ask the questions by hitting the Q&A button. And I did see some questions coming in from the chat, and I would like to address these so that everybody is clear. In regards to the question about the Grab food vouchers that we'll be giving out as a token of our appreciation, you will be receiving the voucher over the email address that you used to register, and it will take around a few working days, as we will have to process your attendance and then send the right food vouchers over to you. So right now I would like to actually start the Q&A, and actually we did have some questions coming in, and thanks, Satish. You have kind of like answered them succinctly just now. So I would like to bring up some of the questions that have already been asked by some of our audiences. So Conan himself actually asked, so what are the security technology that most companies will consider to ensure the confidentiality of its customers' data? And actually, Satish mentioned that, Cohesity and EasiShare helps actually protecting your file data in terms of storing, sharing, and protecting your data repository. And EasiShare itself, actually what you can do is to ensure file level confidentiality. So I mean, Satish and Tegway, do you have any additional things to add on top of that?
I think I'll add on first, since I kept it short, right? So I'll just take more time in the Q&A then. Now, so the first thought that I come in is that there will be no single technology to answer this. So a little bit of what I recall in our past webinars as well. What InspireTech is trying to do is to build that ecosystem, working with good partners, so like Cohesity as well. And if I were to add on is that in the space of file level encryption, we do have partners that we work on. And as well as I think just a few weeks back, some of you might have attended our webinar with Dedoko in terms of some of the e-signing. So what we aim to do is that not a single security technology, but we build an ecosystem with partners like Cohesity who are also focused on security. And then we understand customers' needs in terms of what are the risks that they're exposed to, how are they exchanging their files, what kind of files they're handling, and thereby, right, we prescribe the right solution to solve the problem rather than pinpointing a specific technology. And I think, in fact, some of our pursuits with Cohesity, sometimes we find that after understanding a customer's problem, or maybe EasiShare is not the solution, but they need something else. And we are always happy to then advise them and link them to a more appropriate technology solution, because it's not always about technology. There's always a bigger consideration of the space there. So I think that's my response to the idea of this question.
Yeah. Satish, anything to follow up with that?
I think from the security perspective, that's pretty much right. I think if you store or protect or share, I think the couple of important things, Cohesity on the backend as a file system helps you to protect your data. It is absolutely immutable, making sure that that data is safe. On top of it, you have the InspireTech's EasiShare that maintains the confidentiality on top of it. So that gives you that end-to-end ability. The container is also protecting your data. On top of that, the app, that whether they use the file sharing app or from EasiShare, that is also safe and sound to use. Thank you.
I see. So thanks, Satish. And actually, there's one more guy by the name of Kasim. He actually asked, like, in the end, it's always about cost, thus, and looking what is more cost effective. And Satish put it in such a way that very succinctly, as in cost is definitely the key factor, but for the complexity and features we offer, we provide low total cost of ownership. Anything to add on there, Satish?
Yeah, I see plenty of other questions, but I think cost is one factor, right? That
Yes.
you all agree, right? It may vary case to case and changes So that definitely makes sense. But absolutely with InspireTech and Cohesity, you get the lowest cost possible, right? When you compare the feature sets and the richness that we can bring to your environment, that makes a whole lot of difference. I always say, right, if you want the cheapest of the lot, just drive your way to Simlim. You can, Simlim Square in Singapore gives you the best NAS, the cheapest NAS available in the market. And you can always bargain between two vendors and pull out the best cost. But if you're looking at an enterprise technology, you want to scale, you want to grow, you want to make sure your data is immutable. And you also want analytics built in. You've got many other things that Cohesity and InspireTech brings in. Then you probably look at the right cost comparison. Hey, how does that fit in? How does that help you in your business? And that is where we would definitely help you maintaining the lowest cost of ownership.
Right. Thank you so much, Satish, for explaining that. We do have some other questions. Let me quickly bring them up. Somebody actually did ask, like, is antivirus a built-in module for Cohesity? Please advise on that.
No, absolutely. So we have a marketplace where there are plenty of apps. You go to marketplace.cohesity.com and you should be able to drag and drop an antivirus app, which is free. And you can turn on. So that means your file does not cross over the network. Traditional antivirus, your antivirus is probably one corner of the data center and your production file server is in another corner. So you have a couple of switch hops in between. And your user is on a desktop, which may be far away. Again, what I meant far away means not in physical distance, but the number of hops away. So think about the latency that you add. Whereas Cohesity, being an integrated NAS and the antivirus, it just scans through and helps your file along the way much faster and better in terms of efficiency.
Okay, thank you so much, Satish. Somebody actually did ask, it might be, but just for the both of you, Dr. Lam actually did mention, like, do you guys actually locally support in Malaysia?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do support. We have plenty of customers in Malaysia. Some of the flagship customers already using Cohesity in Malaysia, thanks to their support. Absolutely, yes. We have 24/7 by 4 hours support center working in Malaysia as well.
I see. Thank you so much. For ourselves, we definitely support in Malaysia. That's definitely true for us as well. So let me just put up one more question from Kasim again. Like, how about dark data, which contribute most of the storage? What can Cohesity
great
offer?
question, Sir Kasim, much appreciated on that question. If you look at dark data, is a very, very big cost, right? Nobody knows. Most customers, when I walk in and I ask, how is your data? We got 1 petabyte, we get 100 terabyte, whatever they say, right? They got a truckload of data, but they don't know what is useful, what is not useful. They don't know what kind of files exist, what kind of files that they need, what they need to keep for years, what they should delete or subjected to delete, or maybe even tier it to the cheapest sense of tier. So what is a dark data? I went into a bank, for example, and we scan for files with MP3, MP4, and some movie files or music files. Is that anything valuable to financial services? Those are all dark data, for example, simple as that. Or some files that nobody touched it for days, weeks, and years. That is dark data. So Cohesity gives you the ability to scan through and then do some approach of tiering automatically. You may have a third-party NAS, nothing to do with that. Cohesity gives you that ability to scan through a third-party NAS and help you to filter based on policy to move the oldest files into Cohesity or even cheaper repository on cloud. So hope that answers
Kasim's question. Yeah. So let me bring up a EasiShare question for takeaway. Deense actually asked, does EasiShare have an installation application like OneDrive, Google Drive, or a different platform?
Yep, I saw this. So the way I interpret this question, I hope I interpret this correctly, is that it's asking whether like OneDrive, does it have like mobile apps as well as Mac OS support as well as Windows support as well? So the answer to this question will be yes. We support Windows, Mac OS, as well as iOS, Android as well. So the key platforms are available. Now, if all these key platforms are not the ones that you're looking for, we definitely still have our web portal. So in today's technology, most applications will be a web-based application, and that is something that we have as well. So from a browser, you can also just access your file. In fact, if I were to add on a little bit, I do have some use cases where our customers might be having some in-house legacy storages that might not be available for browsing onto mobile apps, for example, and then they have a use case that they layer on EasiShare so that they can give the users the experience while still retaining the files where they can control and govern. So these are some of the use cases that we also have from EasiShare.
I see. Thank you so much, Stigray, for that. Let me just bring up another question for Satish. I believe this question is for you. This Mr. Singh actually asked, how does it secure data transfer while backing up from cloud servers to on-site servers itself?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. So Cohesity is an ideal platform for all kind of secondary data, be it local, be it on the cloud, be it on a virtual machines, doesn't really matter to us. So where does Cohesity really help? One of the customer put it right. You guys are the right digital garbage repository. Anything that is outside my critical business data, I want to store it on Cohesity. Why? Because I can still access it. The latencies are not bad. 5 to 7 milliseconds is good. And then now I can move the data without any challenge to the cloud of my choice, and vice versa. So, and also from a licensing perspective, there is no additional license I need to procure. It makes it very, very comfortable or rather palatable to any business to think about being a repository. And along with EasiShare from InspireTech, it gives you that additional edge of even moving your laptop data into Cohesity.
I see. Thank you so much for that, Satish. Satish, there are quite a lot of Cohesity questions, so I hope I can run through as much as I can.
I'm typing a few as well. Thank you.
Thanks for all the questions, everybody. So I would like to bring this up. How do you actually back up the files within Smart Files itself?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So Cohesity by default is a backup platform and a file platform. So you can turn on backup policies. So that means you can start doing a backup every few minutes or every half an hour or every 1 hour. See, ideally, there is a common principle in the industry, as you would agree. We got a philosophy called 3-2-1. Make sure that you have multiple production copies. You make sure that you have 2 different medias and so on. Right. So for one set of data, making sure that you follow the 3-2-1. So if you store Cohesity data on Cohesity and do the backup on Cohesity, this is fantastic. But you still need a DR site. You still need a secondary repository to safeguard your data. You enable air gap on the secondary site. You can also have an archive turned on to the cloud. So you can have multiple copies to make sure that your data is very well protected against any malware or any other challenges that may occur.
Thank you, Satish.
All it takes is a rogue user to delete data, right? At the end of the day. So make sure that you have your data protected, well protected on multiple locations.
Right. So, I had a question.
I think I will just add on because I got inspired by the point that Satish mentioned for us, right? In terms of how we even help users to back up the data on their laptop into the Cohesity platform, which then again get more strongly backed up through the Cohesity platform, right? And this really reminds me of when we talk about user directories. One of the key use cases why user directories were created is so that users can manually copy their files from their laptop into this shared repository. But this process typically is manual. Sometimes if you forget to copy or paste or you accidentally deleted some file somewhere or whatever, it's gone. And this is where I think EasiShare also comes in with our sync backup to automate that process, as well as to then back up the user's laptop data into the Cohesity platform. And this is where I think we are transforming that whole experience in the user directories and the project share in terms of how it traditionally was done, which is all the manual and copy pasting, restricted to the file explorer kind of experience and kind. Yeah, so this is something that I just got inspired when Satish helped us to explain our portion as well.
Okay, that's good. So, I would like to bring out some of the questions that actually Satish mentioned already or replied. So actually, Dr. Lam actually mentioned, does Cohesity offers CAPEX and OPEX model? And yes, Cohesity definitely support those models. And Kasim also did raise up another good point, Cohesity have file compression dedupe? If yes, what is the ratio? And Satish actually mentioned a typical ratio we see in file services data is about 2 times to 3 times itself. Is there anything to add on that? Satish, in terms of the ratio?
That's a very, very good question, right? So you see a typical environment would be 2x to 3x. That's what I said. That includes Word documents, spreadsheets, PDF, and typical enterprise data. Now, there may be varied. If you have a lot of text files, we can give you 10x savings. That depends on the scenario. Or you may have a CCTV recording where the savings will be close to zero, right? So it may vary from scenario to scenario, but on a general physical sense, a requirement of 100 TB may need a physical cohesity appliance or a cloud-based appliance of about 30 TB. You can be pretty safe with an assumption of 2 to 3x savings.
Thank you so much, Satish. So I think somebody asked related to a speed latency question. What kind of upload speed and latency are we expecting?
See, this that's a good question. So typical latencies that you would see on a cohesity, this is a LAN-based device. So you take any hardware, you deploy cohesity on top of it, you have EasiShare on top of it. So everything is going to work right within the LAN. So your latencies will be way within 10 milliseconds, and upload speed, these are LAN speeds. So you don't have an issue at all.
I see. Okay, great. Yeah. So let me move on quickly. I mean, there's so many questions flooding through our Q&A. So, does the platform provide any form of encryption?
Yes, I was just about to type, which is AES 256 encryption that we support, which is also FIPS 140-2.
I see. Okay, Ken, I think Andrew did highlight something about backup data. Would the backup data be altered or changed without audits?
Yeah, I love that question because it's pretty popular question when you think about ransomware. The last thing that you want in your business data is that you have your backup and somebody alters it, right? You think that you have the backup, which is actually a company's last level of defense. If you have the last $100, where do you keep it? In the safe in Antarctica, maybe, right? So that is your last level of defense. So where do you keep it? You have to keep it in a storage, which is bulletproof. You have to store it in such a way that nobody can tamper it. You also want to make sure that nobody modifies, tampers, or delete or change anything. And also have an air gap network so that you only access it when you really require with the CISO's permission, right? So that means Cohesity and InspireTech gives you that solution to make sure that the file system is absolutely immutable. Different kinds of ransomware patterns are detected. We can have the ability to detect it, to defend it, and also restore rapidly.
Okay.
Right. So it's very important to understand that particular aspect.
I see. Thanks, Satish, for that. I will just go through another 2 more questions as we are kind of going to run closer to our allocated time. So, Satish, I believe this for you. Will the AV cause any latency to the file access if Cohesity is used as a file share?
See, from a technology perspective, the answer is yes. There's nothing called zero lunch, right? Zero cost lunch. So if you turn on AV, right? AV has a CPU, it has a memory, it also does some work. So the only benefit that you have on Cohesity's integrated AV, the hops between your data set and the integrated AV is literally nothing. The app is well inside the Cohesity itself. So does it have a major impact? The answer is very, very low. Is it going to help you? Yes. Is it a zero cost? The answer is no, because there is some amount of CPU. Let's assume that it is about 3% or whatever. But there is some little bit from a technical perspective. But does it impact your business? No. It is going to be much more helpful than the expensive AVs out there.
Okay. Let me just ask you one last question. No, is it recommended to use Cohesity platform for both heavy smart files use plus backup / storage?
Well, that is a very good question because Cohesity does many functions together. So the answer is yes. We don't have any concern to run file services and backup and restore at the same time. Just need to size it accordingly. See, at the end of the day, it is all about cost and optimization. If we try to retrofit in a 3-node system to do everything, it is going to be a challenge. You're bombarding the same system for backup. You're now screaming for bandwidth. And then you're also doing file services that is screaming for IOPS and low latency. So if we have sufficient number of hardware, right, at the end of the day, it is CPU and memory that determines how much bandwidth and how much of IOPS we can take. If we can size it appropriately, we should be able to fly. In fact, we got plenty of customers today who are doing both because both are not low latency either way. right? File services, a typical environment would be about 5 or 7 milliseconds. You look at backup and backup architectures, mostly are high bandwidth architectures, they are fine. So I would say if we can size it right, we don't have any concern at all.
I see. Ken, thank you so much, Satish. I mean, I apologize in advance if we can't get all the questions going on. We will definitely reach out to you personally.
I have one question here. I mean, I'll just take a couple of seconds to answer.
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
So does Raleigh ask, does Cohesity device compatible with other hardware such as Cisco devices? Absolutely, yes. So we are integrated with Cisco SecureX, and Cisco is a great partner of Cohesity. They also are OEM of Cohesity. So end to end, you can actually get Cohesity and InspireTech right away from Cisco, right, through an end-to-end flow. That makes it very, very easy. So we have SecureX integration that makes your the Cisco portfolio makes it much more stronger with Cohesity architecture. Dr. Lam asked, does Cohesity requires replication software? Yes, it is natively inbuilt. You don't need additional software. Dr. Lam, we have only two major licenses, a file license or a backup license, or you can have both. Now, everything about cloud, the antivirus, the protection, the replication, everything else is integrated. And the licensing works this way. It is based on the backend terabyte. If you say 100 terabyte, based on the sizer, if you need only 20 terabyte, you only need 20, even though you have physical presence of 100 terabyte. Right. With that, thank you very much for all the questions. Happy to take any other questions later. But over to you, Miguel.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Tewe, for answering all the questions. I mean, it has been a lot of questions. Try to go through most of them, and apologize
Miguel,
again.
I just have one closing remark.
Yeah.
I think for the longest time, whenever we go outreach to Outreach EasiShare, we always get asked a lot of this IOPS questions and stuff. So very happy now that we are working with Satish. Next time I can just pass all these questions to Satish and all the answers will be there. That was a reflection of the past 15 minutes that we go through the Q&A. Yeah, thanks, Satish.
Anyway, thanks again, everyone, for your questions. And we have kind of like reached the allocated time. And, you know, if you have any further questions, you can always fill out the feedback form and we will get back to you after the webinar itself. And I did saw one question and somebody actually asked, you know, do we have like a demo going? How can I go about getting a demo? And yes, I would like to actually kind of like introduce a bit on our campaign microsite. And after this, you can go into our microsite to take a look. And if you guys are really ready to kickstart your data resilient journey with us, you know, you can come and visit this website. And, you know, if you do set up a trial or set up a demo or go together with a technical deep dive, yep, we will definitely provide you GrabFood vouchers on top of what you're getting today. And yep, this is the link and the QR code that you can scan. And yep, additional information will definitely be sent to you guys, whether is it the recording or the collaterals, we will definitely send over to you. And yep, that's pretty much all on my end. And I would like to say thank you again and goodbye, everybody.